What is an inspector?
And do you need one for your Airbnb?
Hi, I'm Sarah Karakayan.
And I'm Annette Grant. And together we are
Thanks for visiting.
We've been hosting for well over a decade, welcomed tens of thousands of guests, and earned thousands of 5-star reviews.
Our portfolio continues to bring in over 1.5 million year over year, and supported not only by the industry's leading brands, but also some of the biggest media outlets.
And we're here to help you with your furnished rental. Who's an inspector? Where do I find them? What do they really do? How much do I pay them?
How much do I pay them is the question we always get asked. And how do you pay them?
And aren't they just the cleaner?
By hour, per piece. Am I wasting money? What is an inspector? The inspector actually has many names, and maybe the other names will bring clarity. But there's caretaker, stager, quality control, the detailer. This is the person who has an eye for details, is the last person in the home, and bears all responsibility for that 5-star review or lack thereof, because they come in between the cleaner and guest arrival, and they have just the most important, but I think one of the most fun jobs in our world.
Do not be confused right now. This is not the cleaner. The cleaner is there to clean. All right? We get a lot of questions about this, like, isn't that just my cleaner? The cleaner comes into a mountain of work. Their job is to clean. The inspector, like its title, is to inspect the property and know that it is ready for that guest check-in. Many of you might not know this, but hotels have inspections. Each room is inspected before, or should be, each inspected before guest check-in. So there's a cleaner and an inspector. And like Sarah said, they are checking the details, they are checking the safety. They have a checklist that is completely separate from what the cleaner task checklist looks like.
Now here's the deal. Annette and I try to be really open-minded about how we can take our tips and tricks and what we know works for this industry and how to have you be above everyone else in your marketplace while keeping in mind budget limitations, financial limitations. A lot of you have short-term rentals that are in the middle of nowhere, so maybe instead of a talent, lake or pond, you have a talent puddle. We get that. So can the cleaner also be the inspector? The answer is yes, but you need to be very selective to know that your cleaner has the ability to kind of like walk out of the home when they're done cleaning, kind of take a breath.
Put their inspector glasses on.
Yes, open a whole other different checklist and go in and have a critical eye to their own work and understand that, hey, if we get any demerits or marks on our cleanliness, you are fully responsible. So now you might be saying, well, isn't that the cleaner's job anyway? And hang on, because in the video, we'll go through why that's not, because there's so many aspects of what the inspector does that is not on the cleaner's to-do list. You do not usually pay them for that. And if you do pay them to also be the inspector, we firmly believe that you should adjust their pay accordingly to include these other checks they're gonna do for you.
Why did we add this person? A lot of these lessons that we go through on our channel, we've had to learn the hard way. So we don't want you to make our same mistakes. That's why we offer all this up. So Sarah, let's explain why we did need to bring on the inspector.
Well, I'm gonna give you the sassy answer first because that's my nature. But it's just funny how in the short-term rental industry, first of all, a lot of people think that this just popped up, like this whole industry of staying in houses is this like new thing. And let's just forget the fact that it's been around for hundreds of years actually, but that the modern day vacation rental industry has been around way before Airbnb was even, like before Brian Chesky was even born. You know what I mean? Like you would rent a vacation home along a beach and like stay in a house, okay? And these companies have had inspectors for years. And then of course we have like the hotel industry that has had inspectors for years. So the fact that like some of these things we think that we don't need in the Airbnb industry, like for me, when I was really starting to scale, so at first I lived in the house that I listed on Airbnb. Mm-hmm. So I was cleaning it, I was making sure that it was ready. Like it was my butt was on the line if the guest wasn't happy with the space. So of course I wear it heavier on my heart when I'm cleaning the place and I'm making sure it's guest ready. When you bring in a third-party cleaning company, of course they care about their business and about their reputation, but they also have me and client 2 and client 3 and client 4 and client 5 and they have all the other business stuff that they're worrying about too. So as I got to thinking about it, when I was having my own like bumps in the road when I was scaling, I was like, why am I not putting in this inspector checklist, because I used to work in hotels, like I know that this exists, so why do I think this doesn't apply to me?
We are above it. Yeah. I put everything on my cleaner's back too, unfortunately. And when the days that I would go in to like quote inspect or trust but verify, I always found something. And that was not her fault at all.
Yeah.
It was because she was cleaning and again, doing the best job at that. But the stuff that I was worried about, like maybe the Netflix didn't turn on because the Wi-Fi was disconnected or the forks and the knives weren't exactly the way that I wanted them. These were detail things that weren't really a part of her checklist. And that's where it's like when guest feedback, right? When you start to get we were getting guest feedback on some things that were like, wait, there needs to be another layer of protection here.
Yeah, and so for our cleaners, I would start asking them things, and she eventually was like, I can't do all these things, like, and be able to move on to my next client or your next clean, like, so that for me was like, okay, this role has been around for years and years and years in hotels and old school vacation rental companies. Clearly, I need it in mind if I want to be the best of the best, and so that's why. Yes, from inspecting their cleanliness and making sure that my guest isn't inspecting the cleanliness of the cleaner, like that's not their job. Mm-hmm. Two, making sure safety is dialed in, auditing the supplies that the guest is paying for. How many of you out there, if you're active hosts, have been like, oh my gosh, where did all the forks go? Mm-hmm. Or I bought a pack of 6 glasses, there's only 2 left, and then you go to your cleaner. And we see this all the time with hosts, and like, why didn't my cleaner tell me? And my answer to them is because it's not their job, unless you make it their job and they're compensated as such. Mm-hmm. But again, they're skilled in cleaning, in laundry, right? Like that's their job. Mm-hmm. And so I digress.
Are you getting messages from your guests like, oh, the Wi-Fi is down, or my door code isn't working, someone's, the parking isn't clear, the remote control isn't working? These are blaring like red flags that you need an inspector. Your guest should not be bringing these minor issues to you. That is exactly what our inspector is catching. Those are the detail things that your guest should not be worried about. Is the smoke detector chirping? Is the smoke detector working? Are your filters clean? That is the stuff that the inspector is looking at, and you should not be getting any comments from your guest about those.
And so for me, I realized, because I was getting little one-off private, really kind messages from my guests, because otherwise our places are great. But like, I'm trying to be literally the best and have the best product, make the most money, and be the highest rated. So if that's what you want, which I'm sure it is, because you're here trying to educate yourself, first step for me was like, okay, after every clean, I do need to be here. And I have this checklist, which we'll go through with you, but I have to go through this checklist of stuff. And then, it started catching on how good I was at this. And so people would start to message me saying, hey, can you manage my place too? And so I started my co-hosting business, and I knew that I had to remove myself from that job so that I could do another revenue generating activity in my co-hosting business and grow it. So it kind of went through this stage of, okay, I need to put myself into, after every cleaner, be the one that holds the weight of making sure that when my guest checks in, it is like a seamless, amazing process and that they're gonna have the best day ever. Then training someone else to replace me with boots in the ground so that they can do that and I can be doing other activities in my business. But just so you know, like, you could certainly be this person. And all you remote co-hosts out there, because we talk to a lot of you too, and you start complaining about not knowing about certain things, your cleaner's not telling you. I would say we all need inspectors, but you especially, if you're not there and you can't audit your property periodically, and I'm talking like every week, then especially for you, like, an inspector is going to be it's going to change your business for the best. What does an inspector do beyond checking for cleanliness? So much. That's the thing. It's like once you get your inspector and you put that list together, you're gonna be like, how did I live without this?
And what type of stay was I providing before I had these checks in place? So we mentioned it earlier. Safety is a huge thing that we want your inspector checking for. So again, your smoke detectors, your fire extinguishers. Like, you'd be surprised how many people actually DM us and tell us, oh my gosh, I found that the guest actually used my fire extinguisher after the last day and never mentioned it to me. And so, yes, that does happen. So checking the fire extinguishers, checking your dryer vents.
Making sure that your rugs, the corners aren't curling and that they're a tripping hazard. That's the number one way to get sued as a property owner, as a host, is having slips, trips, and falls in your rental?
Yeah. Checking all of the drawers and cabinets. Like, we can share that there might have been some firearms left behind for some certain stays that maybe the cleaner didn't open some side table drawers and things of that nature. Also, just checking the windows. Are they closed fully? Are they locked? Things like so many things that just as we have that safety checklist and they go through that one by one.
The other thing that your inspector can help you do is making sure that everything that you promise is going to be in your rental. Remember the first day that you take the photos of your property and you're bragging as you're making the listing, all the things that you offer. And then as time goes on, just like it does in your own home, maybe the block to your smartphone adapter that you provide your guest is missing. Maybe, and now instead of having 6 forks for your property that sleeps 3 people, now has 3 forks. And so they have to wash it before they can use it again. Maybe the chair at your dining table is so rickety, the next time someone sits in it, it's going to break and they're going to fall and they're going to have a problem with you. So checking the supply levels and making sure that all the furniture is safe to be used and is there and present and in good working order is another great thing that our inspectors check every single time.
We like to surprise and delight our guests too, and it can be simple, just make a handwritten note. This is what our inspectors can do too. They can see who the next guest is, use their name, that's really important, but they can write a note to them, use their first name, welcome them. So if you have any sort of welcome amenity, whether it's bottled water and a card, or maybe you go with a full-on basket, the inspector can prepare that, arrange it for the guest, make sure it's staged and ready for them. Another huge thing that the inspector does is the exterior of the home. A lot of times your cleaners aren't paying attention to that exterior. They can make sure there isn't any mail, there isn't any junk mail. They can water your flowers, make sure anything on that exterior is guest ready. And think about it. You're probably thinking right now like, oh, I haven't even thought about the exterior of my home lately. That is the first, that walk up is what the guest sees. That's their first impression. So that's something else we put on our checklist for our inspectors.
I'm gonna give you this idea. This may or may not work for your business, but this is just to help your brain move about how you can take this person, whether it's you or maybe you do outsource it if you're a remote host or you're looking to scale a co-hosting company, is this person has to be available during the turnover times. So let's say your checkout's at 10, check-in's at 4, or checkouts at 11, check-in's at 3. They need to be available within those times. And you might ask yourself, well, is there anything else that they could do as an inspector that maybe isn't involved in actually inspecting the property? And here are 2 ideas, and there are so many of them, but 2 ideas that come to mind is they can then remain on duty for the rest of the day. So the guest checks in, but let's say something is awry. Let's say that he or she checked the lock so the guest would have a fine arrival, but for some reason it's not working. The battery's all of a sudden died and the person doesn't know how to get in. I'm just thinking of anything where you would need to go to the property and assist that guest. This person could be on call, and if they have to go out, maybe you pay them a trip fee, right? Because you're like, how do you compensate for being on call? So if they have to go out and it's not a fault of theirs, I do tell our inspectors, like, hey, if it was part of your inspection list to make sure there was a wine key and our guests show up and they have a bottle of wine to kick off their celebration or their vacation and there's no wine key there, you didn't do your job. So you got to be able to go back and make it right. Now, obviously, I'm not going to pay you for that because that was part of your checklist. But if something else popped up where the guest needs assistance, you now have someone that's not you, unless it is you, to go out and assist the guest with that issue. They can also help you with your stock room. So do you have enough stuff on site or wherever you keep your backup stock? They can do an audit of it. Is there enough toilet paper to get you through how many days? Is there enough hand soap? Is there enough of your welcome amenities so you don't have to go out and do superfluous runs to the dollar store or Target or something like that? So there's just some ideas of what else they can do during the day. And your inspector can arrive when your cleaner is still there. They can maybe the cleaner arrives first, but your inspector then arrives to do as Annette said, they can start the exterior of it, or maybe they arrive before the cleaner does and gets the laundry started. If you have to do laundry on site, and that makes more financial sense to pay the inspector than it does a fancy third-party laundering service, maybe that person is actually helping you move the laundry along. I mean, there's just so many ways you could think about how to get value out of this person other than the super valuable task of inspecting the property.
With this creativity of this person, it kind of depends on their skill set, But our inspectors have been invaluable in so many ways. They have helped us set up new properties. Oh my gosh, helped us shop for them, helped us put together furniture. I mean, an extra set of hands is always welcome in the short-term rental world. Some of them are amazing at marketing. We've had them do social media content for us. They're in the house a lot, so they can do photos, they can do reels, they can do some videos for us. Also, can they do outreach in your local community? You would be surprised, like your neighbors see that person coming and going. They can be a spokesperson for your property, but also go to small businesses, go to your neighborhood and find people to partner with. So this role is something to actually be creative with. Let that person know that you might potentially have more hours for them. You can kind of figure out what they're good at. Let's say they don't really have the marketing side, but they crush it at the setup. Or let's say they're really good at numbers. Maybe they can help you with your dynamic pricing, with your revenue management. Maybe they're really great at guest messaging. The key here is to get them started with the inspections first, get that locked in, because that might be all the time that they have. But if they have extra time and you see they're a talented team member and a great asset to your company, see what more things you can layer on to grow your business. Where do you find inspectors and how much do you pay them?
Craigslist,
Facebook groups,
Instagram,
your friends and family,
TikTok,
real estate meetups, LinkedIn, Indeed. I mean,
Where
the
don't you
question
find
isn't
them?
where, it's where don't you, right? This is where you can get creative and just start asking. We have people inside our membership. We can basically go through and ask all of them. They have all been creative and found team members everywhere. I've had family and friends help me. We've done ads. Cleaners have connections. Past inspectors have given referrals to other inspectors. So this is where you just have to put the offer out there for the position and start seeing who's a fit.
And think about the benefits of why they should want to work with you. These hours are actually quite convenient for a lot of people. Think if it's a stay-at-home parent, the kid is off to school at what time? Like, I don't even know, 7:30, 8 a.m., whatever. And then,
it just depends.
yeah, and then maybe school's over at 2 or 2:30, but then they go to extracurricular activities. So maybe this parent could also help up until check-in, whatever it's 3 or 4 o'clock. So there's that sector of human.
College students,
A realtor who's just getting started. They just want to be in houses. They want to be in their community. So maybe they're taking a break from cold calling and they're instead helping you with this position.
Some people that just work at night, this is a great thing. They can work for a few hours during the day, work at night. People that just have part-time jobs, that's a lot of times our inspectors have had multiple side hustles, and this is a great side hustle that they can fit in. I know I've worked with people that are retired and they wanted to work, but they wanted to have a slow morning, drink their coffee. So that like 10 to 3, 10 to 4 was perfect for them. And they were just looking for something to, keep them busy, still make some extra money, but give them a lot of flexibility on those, not having to work too early, not having to work too late.
And there's 2 different ways that you could consider compensation. There's hourly, and there is per inspection or per piece, they say in our world. And so what you decide really depends on your setup, and we can kind of get your brain moving here on how you can pick that for yourself. For me, I can keep the inspector busy from not even like 10 a.m. where checkout starts. I can keep them busy from 9 a.m. until a little bit after check-in. So for me, hourly made more sense because they're doing so much more than just being there once the cleaner is out and making sure it's ready for that guest.
And maybe it is just a monthly retainer or per piece. And just to give you some visibility, like some people that I compensate, you might have someone that overarching monthly fee. It's like, hey, as long as you work X amount of hours over the whole month, because this might be something where maybe you have, 10 reservations one month and maybe only 4 the other month. You'll know your numbers. The biggest thing here that I just said is you want to know your numbers though. You don't want to overpromise financially what you're not going to be able to deliver on. We encourage you, this is something maybe you have done on your own, so you know how long it takes, you know what work is involved, but that's why also layering on other tasks is helpful if you want to kind of guarantee an amount of money over the whole month or per, like Sarah's saying, per inspection or per turn, just figuring that out. But you're going to have to kind of zoom out and look at your overall income of the property and what percentage you could compensate the inspector.
And remember, maybe you're investing in this person because you want to scale, so actually you do make less by hiring this person.
Right.
but it's okay with you because you want time to shop for another property that's going to bring in X amount of revenue. So as long as you're purposeful, it's actually okay to take a cut in your pay for the growth of your business. And you're like, okay, Sarah and Annette, could you please give me some specifics here? And I'm going to.
Right,
Okay, so if it's per piece, so per inspection, think about what is going to motivate this human being to pivot from whatever else they're doing that day to help you. So I don't want you to think about like, well, what's the value of the inspection? Like truly, like if the inspection takes 30 minutes, an hour, you can't pay this person, let's just make up a number, $15 US dollars to stop what they're doing, travel to your property, focus on you, and then travel back to what they're doing. Because this is a part-time or this is like a gig situation, you're probably gonna have to pay a little bit more to get them to care, to get out of bed, or to get them to leave their home and do this thing for you. So I want you to like change that perception, because sometimes people are like, wait a minute, if you pay per piece, it might actually be a little higher than the hourly value. But you remember here, you're not giving this person a big chunk of work. You're giving them something that's like this very siloed, specific period of time, and it's short. Now, if you're paying them an hourly basis and you can promise them 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 hours a day, I think then the value is, and actually, I did this research yesterday. There's a couple websites that are specific to hiring hospitality people for the vacation rental, short-term rental world. And I saw, in the United States, I saw job offerings out there for inspectors anywhere from $17 an hour all the way up to $35 an hour. It just depends on what skill set you bring. Like if you actually are quite handy and you can
specific.
Market
Very
specific.
market specific.
Yeah. So like just think about maybe what does a cleaner make an hour, or like a skilled janitorial worker or a handy person, right? Like what is that marketplace looking like? And make sure you're in tune with it, because this is the person that's going in before your guest arrives and making sure that your business is looking the best it can for that 5-star review.
So does this mean I never have to go to my property again?
I can
It's
just
literally
go-
passive income.
I can just go to the beach and drink a margarita and be like, wow, I really did it. I uncracked the passive income code.
So we do not care how many people you hire. We don't care if it's your bookkeeper, your inspector, your CPA. Like, you still need to trust but verify all of the work. Now, that doesn't mean you're going to your house all the time, but yes, you still need to put in those checks and balances. There should be times that you are spending time in the home reviewing that person's work. Again, trust but verify, that's what you've got to do. And we see so many hosts that want this to be completely passive, hands-off, but you are the CEO of your business. This is hopefully a large part of your, a large asset for you. And so we would never encourage anyone to just be completely hands-off.
We didn't talk about this in the video, whether they should be a W-2 employee or a 1099 contractor. In most cases, it's going to be a 1099 contractor, and therefore you need to know how to set that person up for success and your boundaries. Check out our download in the show notes, and we'll get you all set up.
We've got you covered. Also, we've done a live inspection, literally room by room. I mean, every single thing we go through. Make sure to check out that video and you can inspect with us. Alongside your inspector, you need an amazing cleaner, so make sure you check out our video on how to find your dream cleaner.
And with that, I'm Sarah Caracan.
I'm Annette Grant, and together we are
Thanks for visiting.